Good morning again, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Damian Jones, and I'm the General Manager of the Corporate and Commercial team here at Scotia. And I wanted to welcome each and every one of you to our 12th installment of our Scotia Insights. Today, you're getting really to attend the second chapter, and we're calling this the virtual series. This is our web series. You may be wondering, what is Scotia Insights if you're joining for the first time? And we started this in February 2016, and it's really meant to give our clients a deeper understanding and knowledge of various topics. We invite a speaker, just like we've done today, and they share their unique experience and expertise on a particular topic. And then we have a very insightful discussion around that topic. That's really what Insights is about, and that's what we're looking forward to today. Now, I'm very excited about our topic here today, which is aptly entitled, Growing Your Business and Thriving in This New Normal. We hope that you find this session useful. I'll be kind of just quarterbacking today's operation, but we really hope that you find value in the discussion, and we intend to do many more of these. But before I go on, let me introduce you to our panelists who you may be seeing right now. First one is Christina Abreu. Hi, Christina, who's our Director of Global Transaction Banking. She has, tremendous experience, over 20 years experience with electronic banking and digital banking. She's led many teams here, and she's our subject matter expert for everything digital on the local side, because she oversees both the Eastern and the Southern Caribbean region. Our feature speaker for today is Mauro Bettin. Hi, Mauro. And he joins us. We're privileged to have him. He is a Scotiabank as well. He joins us. He's the Director of Business Banking and International Banking. And he joins us with a global perspective, a wealth of knowledge. Now, Mauro has led our digital factory. He's been tremendously involved in leading agile teams. He has over 20 years experience, many of which, have been with big, large international Canadian banks. So he brings that global perspective, and we are really pleased to have him here today to kind of talk to you about this topic. And I could go on all day, but let me give the floor to Mauro, who will take us through the main presentation for this morning. Over to you, Mauro.
Thank you, Damian, and thank you everybody for attending. I'm glad to be here and glad to have everybody join. I hope everybody in the audience is doing well and keeping safe. The deck, as Damian mentioned, the data I'll be sharing with you today is about North America and Canada. However, the strategies we're going to discuss in this insight sessions are universal to all businesses and all markets. So let's start with, let me start by saying that, small business is critical to any economy, in any market, in any country. We all know that small businesses are key employers, but how big is that? Well, in Canada, there's about 86% of businesses in Canada have less than 20 employees. If you expand that to look at businesses with less than 100 employees, that number balloons to what, 97 or almost 98% actually. So pre-COVID, with the pandemic, small businesses accounted for about half of the private jobs in the sector, and about 2/3 of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2017. It's very much believed that closure of small businesses are thought to generate a longer lasting unemployment than temporary furloughs or layoffs will. As we all know, small businesses are the backbone of the economy. And according to a Canadian study that was done last year, nearly twice as many Canadians prefer shopping at a small business than a big box store. And what was interesting about that study is that 1 in 5 were actually willing to pay more. You as small business owners, you have that sense of community. It's universal. And the advantage that you guys have as owners and entrepreneurs is that you have a special relationship with your customer. A lot of your customers one-on-one. And just like here in Toronto, where I'm based, I have a lot of, I deal with a lot of small business customers on a personal level for my own goods and for my own stuff. And they know me well, and they know me by a first name basis. So we have that connection already. Thirdly, small business, they're a key source of the economy. Many larger firms, rely on small business for direct to customer B2B products, services, and they're also employees of their customers, right? There's a ripple effect. All these industries and all these companies leverage you and other small businesses. So a stop in a small business has a ripple effect that could equate to job losses or significant job losses in the economy. And last, but definitely not least, you as small business owners, you're entrepreneurs. You innovate, you build, you work hard, right? You solve problems to unique situations. And what more unique situation than we have today than, COVID, and how are we adapting? So as we all know, COVID hit in March, and by about mid-April, about half of the small businesses, or a third of the small businesses stopped operating. And now by mid-May, more than half have laid off or did temporary furloughs. The shutdown has affected more than just retail and restaurants. Yes, they're the biggest contributor. As you see in this scatter diagram here, the black circle labeled A, that's restaurants and accommodation and food services, right? The black represents, how you read this diagram. To the right, basically, how companies were affected the most by COVID. So as you go to the right, most affected, and the y-axis is the higher financial risk. You see the small k up there. Yes, it's a small sector, but it's very much high financial risk, right? But there are other industries too. So maybe private sector, educational services, childcare services. We have sports classes, art schools. Everywhere where social distancing has played a part, these businesses have been affected. Similarly, the medical profession, the healthcare sector. And I'm talking more about, your private practices where patients, again, have reluctant to visit in person. We're seeing ways that people are adapting, to this new norm. And, so the message I want to, portray to you guys that, with this crisis comes opportunity. And the way businesses learn and adjust to today's crisis will prepare them for the future. And what we found is that what was really interesting is that the barriers that we thought that were present pre-COVID have all been removed. Customers, for the most part, and pretty much all in the things I've witnessed personally, are willing to try new things, myself included. They're willing to experiment. And that represents you as small business owners and as a unique opportunity that we've never, ever seen before. You need to harness that. I think this, in your situation, in your operations, this is the time where you guys can be bold and take new risks with customers, because customers are longing for purchase, are longing to get back into the norm. So, and how are businesses doing this to basically improve their operations? Well, there's a couple of ways. There's actually a number of ways, but we're looking at two different silos, I guess. So organizations are rethinking their digital product offering, and they're improving their operating model overall. If we look at the digital offering, we see that the easy solution is that organizations are providing digital versions of their physical products, right? But what we found when we did the study, we talked to other businesses and other top performers. The top performers are actually building entirely new digital offerings, end to end, right? And that's what you see in the left-hand side there. Others are, 28%, but the top performing companies, they've actually pretty much close to half of their offers now are now all digital. And how are they doing this? Well, they're looking at their business model, and there's many, many options here. One is looking at their supply chain, for sure. And when I say supply chain, it's not about, doing orders, electronically, but it's also looking at your data. Data is key, right? So they're leveraging, data sciences, they're leveraging data to understand when their products and services are at risk of running low, to place those orders for them. You as an owner don't want to run out of supplies. And, we had a lot of examples in COVID, factors unbeknown, and prevented by us, where, stores did run out of supplies. Key in all this is, of course, a remote workforce and redeploying our staff. For example, Scotiabank in particular, because of our frontline staff and a lot of closures and a lot of reduced hours, we actually redeployed our frontline staff to back office support, and that allows us to continue the service we want even behind the scenes, right? With this redeployment of staff, with this remote workforce, people working from home, people working from other locations, cloud computing is kind of important. And what do I mean by cloud computing? Well, a lot of you probably store all your data or all your files on a computer in your office. With remote working, it's hard to get access to those files. So what cloud computing is, you actually have that information stored on the internet, right? So that way, no matter where you are, where you're working, where your staff are working, you all have access to your files and access to your customer data, supplier data, you name it, all your files are there. With cloud computing, with internet storage, with remote working, security is key. I can't stress enough to you guys how important security is. The last thing you want to do is be hacked or lose your data to hackers, lose your data overall, or be compromised, lose your customer files or misplace your customer files, your supplier files. You don't want to lose that confidence. You have your customers that are there to support you. And of course, a lot of examples we've seen is customer interaction. And what do I mean by customer interaction? Like I mentioned at the outset, you guys as small business owners have a tremendous connection with your customers. They're there for you. Harness that, work with it. How do you connect to your customers? Well, there are many ways, and the obvious one is a digital presence. And we can talk online, but we'll talk to you in a bit. But it's not just an online page. There are many options available to all of us. There's WhatsApp. You can do WhatsApp Messenger. You can do email messages to your customers. Don't be afraid to call them on the telephone if you have to. Right? There's Instagram. There's social media. There's Facebook. You can do FaceTime videos. I've seen examples of small businesses actually do a live feed on Facebook where they're displaying the dress or the garment in front of them. And it's actually a funny story because one of the operators was, when they first started, they basically had the camera here, neck down. They were afraid to show their face. As they got more comfortable, they started to show their face and, getting that interaction with their customers. But again, and that's what I was trying to explain to you guys initially, which was, now is the time to be bold. Customers are willing to just, go with it, right? An online page. I know a lot of the small business owners I've talked to and I've dealt with, it's pretty hard. A lot of them don't actually have an online page. Now in today's world, it's not that. There's services out there that allow you to create an online presence. There's Wix, there's Squarespace, there's a plethora of options available to you. And the beauty about those services is they have templates. You can actually get a template, set it up, and get that online presence. The reason you want to have that online presence is to know that customers can reach you, right? Again, your customers are key for you. The reason why your current customer base is key, because I think it's hard for new customers to find you, and for you as a business owner to get new customers. So you want to harness your current customers, building your website, even if it's just as simple as one page, just an information page where customers can see what you do, what you offer, what services you offer, your current customer base, even your potential future customer base, how to get a hold of you, whether it be email, whether it be a text. You don't have to start with, an elaborate, online web page. You can just do one page for information only. You can take it to a second step, which is e-commerce, right? And what I mean e-commerce is basically allowing your customers to pay for goods and services. They can order it online. They pay for it using either a credit card or even a PayPal account. The beauty of that is you get the money up front, and then you can figure out how to best, ship those goods to your customer. One option, one example, we've seen many examples. One example, customers come to your store and they pick it up. Another example, we talked about your remote workforce. You're redeploying your staff into other areas. Why can't you now take those same staff and to have them ship those same goods and services to that customer if they choose to, right? And And with this online presence, we have to now start talking about or looking at online and offline integration. And what I mean by that is we've seen some examples with dance studios, fitness centers. They, because their stores were closed, they started to live stream their classes, and customers have joined, remotely, participate in the classes remotely. Well, now that their stores are beginning to open up, their studios are opening up, they don't want to lose that online presence they had, because some customers actually may be very remote, and to get to your studio or to get to your business is too far for them to travel. So what they're doing is now they're integrating both their studio with an online presence. So I've seen examples of a studio here in Toronto, where I am based, where they're actually set up the camera and the monitors in the actual studio they have. So when they actually broadcast the session, they have the in-class participants also working with and interacting with the people on the video stream. Now, a lot of these things we're talking about, I've talked to you about today right now so far, is about how to maintain your revenue stream. But we shouldn't also forget how to create efficiency through technology. When I say efficiency through technology, it can be in many ways. It's basically streamlining your back operations and making it more digital. A lot of the customers I've spoken to in the markets I support across the Caribbean, a lot of customers hire staff to actually do their payroll, to actually pay their suppliers and so forth. And with this COVID pandemic and people working from home, that has become a challenge, because a lot of them write checks to pay their goods and services. A lot of them write checks to pay their staff. And we found that a lot of them didn't have an online banking platform, or they have online banking, but they didn't use it. And every bank has an online banking platform for their customer, not just Scotia, it's every bank. The learning curve is actually not that difficult. And what we found is that, once they learned it, once they got, accustomed to it, they liked it. And it's actually good because you can actually schedule your payments. You can actually schedule when you want to pay your staff, whether it be once every 2 weeks, once every week, once every month, however you've arranged with your staff. And of course, you can also pay your suppliers, which is also key. And that's the benefit of two things. One, your staff, your suppliers, they get the money in their bank account when you schedule that payment. So the benefit is for them and your staff is they don't have to take a check and actually go to a bank or an ATM to deposit it. It's all done for them. And now that person you had behind the scenes, doing all your payroll, doing all your supplier invoices, and doing all that manual paperwork, you actually have that person and resource freed up to do other stuff, right? Which is key. And again, I think the challenge I want to pose to you all, the audience, is I think, like I mentioned, now is the time to be bold. Now is the time I think you guys all of us need to revisit our customer journey, see what we can cut out, right? And what we found is that many companies have pivoted, right? So the bottom here is pretty simple. We have, people working from home, people leveraging, webcams and live streams. So we talked about fitnesses, we talked about healthcare, we talked about education. All those people have harnessed the digital movement and broadcasting to service their customers. Customers are talking to their doctors and patients, having that FaceTime conversation or WhatsApp video or a link, or in this case, Zoom, like we're doing today. Other companies have actually pivoted. So we have there's examples in the airline industry. Airlines have seen a drastic fall in their consumer space. Obvious reasons. All flights are grounded. So what's happening, instead of just waiting it out, companies like Virgin, Lufthansa, United Airlines, and American Airlines, they've actually taken those commercial flights and turned them into cargo flights, right? To keep on that revenue stream. An example of Whole Foods. Whole Foods has, made some of their stores what's called dark stores. They made them distribution centers. Distribution centers whereby customers cannot visit. It's only available to staff. And staff actually go to that store and they fulfill purchase orders on behalf of Whole Foods and send those goods and services out to those customers. A great example in the US is this company called Red Roof. It's a hotel chain. Hotel reservations have plummeted as well. So instead of them waiting out, what they've done is they've understand that working from home possesses challenges, right? We have, there's a lot of distractions, a lot of noise. And so what they've decided is let's offer a day rate to our working from home, community, right? So if you have an important meeting to take, you can actually go to Red Roof. They ensure that, the social distancing, they ensure sanitized rooms. They ensure that everything you need is there so you can work effectively. They give you high-speed internet access, and all for a very reasonable rate. I think the rate is less than $30 US just for the day. So you can just leave in the morning, go to Red Roof, do all the work you need to do to get your job done, and then go back home when you need to. So again, it's a great example of people pivoting into other revenue streams during this COVID crisis, as opposed to just trying to wait it out. And then of course, in the middle, you have the hybrid, where people start their online journey on a web page. They fulfill what they want, they pay on the web, but then they go to your store and they actually do either curbside pickup. And there's also examples of people putting the items directly into your trunk, so that way you maintain your safety. You get to go, you get to get your goods, and you move on. Last weekend on Father's Day, my kids and I went for a hike. And after the hike, we decided to get ice cream. And luckily, the ice cream shop that we go to has a drive-through. So, we went through the line. It's actually a pretty lengthy line. And, we got to the window where you pay and you get your merchandise, so you get your ice cream. And we approached, I noticed there was a table right by the window, and we were like, okay, that's new. Why is there a table there? So the gentleman, opens his little window. He has his POS device on a stick. He passes the POS device towards me. I have the luxury of tap, but at the same time, I could have easily inserted my card, typed my PIN in, and away he went. This company has decided to maintain that social distance to protect not only myself and my kids, but also his staff, right? Then he puts all the items that we purchased into a plastic bin. He pushes it on the table and reach over, pick it up, and hand the ice cream to my kids. Pre-COVID, we would have thought that was nonsense. Now, I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, these guys are thinking, POS on a stick. Who would have thought that, right? So I think that's what's going on. And I think what I want you guys as small business owners is to think of is, how to be bold, how to be agile. Businesses that can pivot digitally today and adapt to the scenarios we're dealing with are going to survive today, but not only survive, you're going to thrive in the long term. So I think this is the perfect opportunity for you guys to just take a step back. Be adventurous, be bold. Customers are willing to take a challenge with you. Okay. And with that, I'll pass this back to Damian to take any questions, and we can have some good Q&A in the stream here. How are you, Damian? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mauro. I think that was very good perspective overall. And, I think what is uniquely insightful are the examples, like globally, of how businesses have quickly evolved and innovated. And I think that's practical and can be used by businesses here in Trinidad. So I thought that was very useful. So again, I know you all are very eager. We're starting to get many, many questions coming in on the chat. And again, I would remind you, at any point, through our presentation, feel free to share, questions on the chat, and, we'll be opening up in a very short while. But right before we do that, so when we sent out the invitations, there were several questions that came in advance of today's session. So, what we wanted to do is maybe go through a couple of those to those who were kind enough to send in questions. And then we would open the line right after. As I mentioned before, I will say your name, we'll unmute your mic, and then you'll proceed with your question thereafter. So looking at some of these questions, I think, this one is for you, Mauro. Sorry to put you on the spot, but you are our expert. So the first one I have here, it says, so you've been a banker for more than 20 years in, big Canadian firms. And again, I mentioned you led our digital factory. So seeing this evolution in banking, what has been most notable about this crisis from your perspective?
Good question, but I think the biggest surprise, I think, guys, is how sudden everything ground to a halt. it's twofold. It's both economically and a public health crisis. And it wasn't just one country. It's across the entire globe. We've never seen anything like this. So those factors combined have made this such a challenging and so complex issue to deal with. As I discussed earlier, we've seen a spectrum of how, companies have responded to this crisis. I think what I'm amazed is the creativity that, businesses are using. As I said, the POS on a stick, I would have never thought that. I've seen examples where businesses, the local liquor store we have here to buy wine, they've actually done, virtual tasting events. Who would have thought, right? All these ways that people are adapting, digitally and embracing this change, and the key has been, like I mentioned, is that, these businesses that have pivoted and have basically become agile, they found new ways to operate successfully. And I think these are the ones that are, they're surviving today, but they're going to really thrive in the future. So that to me has been a great, surprise with all this. And I think, Damian, I see a good question here. I think it's back to you now, because I see, the question here is, how in Trinidad have small businesses there, evolved locally during this lockdown?
So I think that's a great question. And again, we've seen, small and medium-sized businesses react extremely quickly here as well. I think of, doctors who do, their medical consultations on Zoom and then take their payments on e-commerce. Like that's happening right now. I think of, some of the home stores, who are clients, they've immediately got their sites up and, taking payments online. Again, you guys would have seen, many restaurants have, immediately evolved and done curbside pickup, and, you can get your meals, and all you have to do is come up to the window, and we have a mobile point of sale device, very similar to what we have, which accepts all credit cards, including tap cards as well, which is, contactless, as you mentioned before. So, I think businesses, even here locally, small and medium-sized businesses, they've all very quickly evolved their businesses and come up with very creative solutions, under these, circumstances, which, there is no precedent. So I think that's what we've been seeing here to a large extent. And the way that technology and digital has been done has been impressive. Now, we have several questions about digital and online banking, right? So, Chris, we cannot leave you out of this morning's session, because we know, you are the subject matter expert here. So I do have one of these questions, and it's on specifically online banking. So it says, my business is signed up for online banking. Now we call this CMS, right? So this is what the person has said, which is our cash management system. But admittedly, I've not been using this much, if at all. So can you share, Christina, some of the examples of transactions that are available? Can I get back online now? And how would it help my business to evolve in this time?
Thanks, Damian. Well, to be very honest, I was getting a bit jealous of yourself and Mauro. So I'm glad to be able to jump in. Firstly, for the wider audience outside of the question, our cash management system is a full suite of products. So when I say full suite, I'm talking about ability to view all your accounts, to get your e-statements now online, from salary processing to supplier payments, wire transfers, RTGS. Everybody may be familiar with bill payments, your traditional bills, but now we have Board of Inland Revenue on board, and we have the National Insurance Board as well. Important to note that this is readily available for you anywhere you are, whether you're working from home or you're in the office. You can be out of country, even though right now nobody is out of country, but it's accessible to you. One thing that I've heard over time from the small business community is, I'm not too sure how to get on. I'm not, as Damian mentioned in the question, I find it a little daunting, so that I didn't really try. And the good news is that we have heard you, and what we have done is set up a digital team. This team will be available to you. They will call you at your convenience, and they will walk you through, this step, second step, third step. They will show you or walk you through how to do transactions, make you comfortable with the system. And in addition to that, sometimes we learn something today and we go to use it again 2 days later, and perhaps a couple of steps have slipped us, and that's okay. You can call any of these teams and they'll walk you through it again to ensure that you are comfortable. But more and more, our business partners are reaching out to us and asking us, hey, how can I do these transactions, make it easier. I don't want to come into the branch. Most importantly, I don't want my staff having to come into a branch, or even my customers. So keep in mind, this is available and we have a team ready to go to assist you to use it.
I think great context and great options there, because again, the usage is the key. Just getting online is not important. I think being able to use the system, but also show people all the capabilities is important. Now, just a related question here, and I think this one is also for you, Christina. It says, my day-to-day business activities require me to visit my customers. What digital payment solutions do you offer? Because it's not a physical office that they're operating in. So is there anything here that we can offer here, Chris?
Sure. So everybody will be familiar with the traditional wireless terminals. We have many customers today that, if they have curbside pickup, you may have someone come outside and, hand you a wireless terminal. What we have partnered with a company in providing is something that we call an M10. An M10, if you can visualize it, is no bigger than the palm of your hand. It's a merchant device that will Bluetooth to a phone or a tablet. And what it does is it's actually paperless. So it accepts swipe, chip, and tap. So you will visit your customer, they will do their transaction, and then the receipt is emailed to your client. So you find a lot of people, a lot of nail techs, for instance, for any ladies out there that are doing home visits now. For example, they are finding this very useful. Now, it doesn't stop there with the M10s. The M10s are actually quite versatile and they can go even a step further. For a larger type company, the M10's technology allows you to integrate into your back office. So if it needed to happen, it can actually talk to stock levels and those kind of numbers that you may need for your business. So from a simple online processing, being able, should I say, the delivery side, being able to take in a payment, to all the way through, if you needed it to talk to your back end, the M10s is a fine solution for that.
Great. I mean, fantastic options. I mean, payment in the palm of your hand, not quite payment on a stick yet, but I mean, payment on in the palm of your hand. I mean, I think a couple of years ago, we wouldn't even visualize that. But again, the pandemic has really shown us that we have to evolve. Yeah. So we have a couple of questions in the chat and prepared questions on this topic. So, again, Christina, this one is for you. So it asks, how do I get signed up to payments from my customers via e-commerce, right? It seems complicated.
Right. So e-commerce, I think today is one of the hottest topics around. We've seen many of our customers, as Mauro would have mentioned, migrate to, let's say, video sessions and then taking in the payment via e-commerce. Or we have, for instance, home stores that now offer that. They have two solutions. You can either do a curbside pickup after or a delivery service. In the past, again, many customers have come and, I can't afford it. I don't even have a website. How would I even start? I don't know where to go. The good news is, again, taking feedback from you, our clients, we have partnered with a company that provides what I term e-commerce solution out of a box, meaning it's a very simple online receiver of payments. If you did not have a website, you can actually choose from their template selection, and it will give you that landing page. If in a year or two you decided, I want to have my own, it's a seamless transition from using their template to going onto your own page. So it's for the simplicity of just being able to access it at your fingertips. Now, of course, there's always the e-commerce as in the full solution, meaning for the folks who have their web page that want to have, their logos on their receipts and everything labeled. And that is also, it continues to be available. We're fully staffed and we are here ready to do business and to walk you through whatever is the best fit for you. Important though to note with e-commerce, and this question I have gotten, not too sure if somebody will pose it. Many have said, well, e-commerce is for credit card holders. What happens to my debit card clients? And that is an excellent question. With the shift to Visa debit, which I think many people may know already, tomorrow is Scotiabank's deadline for switching all our debit card users onto Visa debit. The other commercial banks will follow shortly. However, you can do local payments with your Visa debit on e-commerce sites locally. So the good news is if you took a decision to move to e-commerce tomorrow, you will not be eliminating your debit card customers. You are going to be able to offer your business to all.
So hopefully that's useful. And again, we are all available to continue this dialogue as we move on. So Mauro, I don't know if you would want to, just give us your closing comments as we start to wrap up.
Certainly. So in closing, I think, you, the audience, as small business owners, I think you realize that you guys are the backbone in your country, and small businesses are the backbone in any country for not only job creation but economic contribution. And like we mentioned, those businesses that can pivot digitally, be agile, adopt new digital strategies to enable your customers, partners, and communities in which they operate to have the best opportunity. We'll have the best opportunity not only to survive but thrive in the long term. Although it's hard to predict a recurrence, like we talked about, Perry, which is, we don't know when this virus is going to end, if another one's going to take effect. So the future we envision post-COVID is one where people and businesses are prepared and enabled through technology. Whether it is to continue business operations or maintain access to the essential needs, the digital economy will play a crucial role in all aspects of our lives. This is a brave new world, everybody. We have to create together. And as I mentioned to you guys in the outset, you as small business owners are creative. You're doers, you're thinkers, you create solutions. So now is the time to harness that time and power and we'll work with small businesses like you to help build it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mauro, and thanks for all your insights today. Thank you as well, Christina. Thank you to all our clients who have joined us here today and so willingly participated. This is only part one of this topic. We will be having a part two of this series, so stay tuned. We'll also be sending out following this. We haven't had all the time to answer all the questions on the chat. But we'll definitely be sending out, again, a replay of this particular session and also answering any follow-up questions that you guys have thereafter. Remember that we have a full team between our business banking managers for small business, between our relationship managers for corporate and commercial, and Christina's global transaction banking team. We have a full team who can assist you with, getting online, going digital, and answering any of the questions you guys may have following this session. This is just the start of the dialogue. We expect to continue having this going forward. Thank you very much for joining us for Scotia Insights today. And, enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.